Step outside.
Yat A, Anotho, Hehet, Khaniya, Indigenous Ways. Greetings, everyone, in a good way. Thank you very much for joining us this evening for our Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. We'd like to take this time to acknowledge traditional owners, ancestors of the tribal lands. We are sitting here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Oka, Boke, Owinge. We reside, and thank you all for blessing us and extending some blessings out to your ancestors, caretakers of your tribal lands, wherever you're zooming in from. Thank you for being with us. This evening, we would like to take the time to welcome Amy Denet Deal.
Hi, everyone.
All right, let's just get right to it. Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Hi,
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm so honored to be here tonight amongst friends. You know, we all have so much in common in the work we do. And it's such a blessing. We get to come together and actually just spend an hour just talking about our lives and about our livelihoods and about our dreams. So thank you for that. I am Amy Denet Deal. I am the founder of a brand platform called For Kinship. And what that is we do upcycled, sustainable artwear, using things already here on the planet, being really respectful and mindful about the way we bring fashion into the world. But we also use that brand platform to create not only sustainable clothing, but sustainable community solutions. I feel that they go hand in hand in creating business as an Indigenous person, is that we have to look where our moccasins are firmly planted on the ground and be in reciprocity with that land. So in coming home and in being involved with my community, it's important that I also find ways to give back. So I'd love to talk about that if you have any questions, Tash, and definitely just very passionate about all the different ways we can do that work. I think I told you about, we opened a skate park about a week ago out on Navajo Nation. That's been about 2 years in planning and fundraising and organizing. So it was really a joyful day to be there with my community and celebrate that day with Tony Hawk and other great allies that have come on board to support outdoor recreation for kids.
Beautiful. So I'm really curious about, we want to know you. Can you tell us about some of your early beginnings? And then we'll just go from there, and we'll jump off from there and ask more questions. And then when we're done, we'll ask the audience to jump in and ask some questions themselves. So tell us about your earliest beginnings. And
My earliest beginnings were that I was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, really far from homelands, right? So my mom, who's Diné, she's from the Bistee Wilderness area, and she was part of obviously boarding school times, and really had a hard struggle through that time period of her life, and then was part of Indian relocation and ended up in Cleveland, Ohio at a very young age, and got pregnant with me. And at that time, it was before the Indian Child Welfare Act. So many of young ones like myself got adopted out without any connection to our birth families and family members that might have stepped in. So I was raised in Indiana with a non-native family and a really loving, wonderful group of people, but obviously was very disconnected from my Diné culture, and didn't really understand even what that meant, you know? And so through that displacement, through kind of not feeling like a lot of people that get displaced to other areas away from the homeland, it's just this feeling that you don't really fit in. And so I had a really great life of being in the fashion industry and getting to travel the world, but it just never felt like home. You know, I was constantly searching, constantly not knowing probably who I was deep down, just having this displacement affect a lot of decisions I made in my life. and didn't really find my way back until very late in my late 40s, early 50s, began coming back to New Mexico, coming back and trying to find my way. So it happened very late in life, which for anybody that's on this call that might have been part of that time period of displacement, just know that it's never too late to come home. It's never too late to come back. It's a beautiful thing. It's a joyful thing. Comes with many gifts, comes with many responsibilities.
That's very heartfelt. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So that leads me to my next question. How did you end up in fashion world, and who were some of your influences? What were some of your influences?
Yeah, I can say like from the time I was just a really like kindergarten age, 6 years old, I always had my mind working in that creative way with textiles. I've always loved working with textiles, making clothes, imagining how things could look or visually look. And so that started in me very, very young. My parents kind of at that time had pushed me more into a science background in pharmacy, but part of me could never imagine myself in a drugstore smock for the rest of my life. So I ended up applying for FIT, which is the Fashion Institute of Technology, and was probably one of the first Native people to go there for the classes. I don't remember ever meeting anyone else there. Actually, the whole time I was in fashion, I never really felt like I connected with any other Native people. So I guess I was probably one of the early people out there in the field. But yeah, I was very passionate about motion and sports. So I went down a pathway of active sportswear. So I started working for Reebok in the late 80s, and then worked in Europe for a brand called Puma as creative director for Global. So really interesting jobs, getting to meet all different cultures, traveling all around the world, giving me great perspective on how large these lands are, and really became very tenured in many areas of design, development, marketing, sales. So really just kind of jack of all trades. And I had my daughter a little bit later. I had Lily when I was 36 years old. And as I was bringing up a young one, it just kind of awakened in me that I'm doing all this work for these big giant brands. And I'm trying to teach my child to be a sustainable, conscious, human being. And it just felt like I was being so inauthentic as a mom, like, saying one thing and doing another. So I ended up jumping ship out of the corporate world, really because I just wanted to be a better mom, to set a better example for my daughter. So I started a sustainable consulting firm when she was little, and spent maybe 10 years doing work in that area, doing small batch production here in the United States, and started this brand. This brand started as just an idea of what a brand could be, right? Working with things already on the planet, being in harmony. And even though I hadn't come back home yet, there were parts of me that were awakening probably to an ancestral knowledge that was there the whole time. And it just slowly unraveled, slowly kind of came together. And I finally got brave and said, when my daughter graduated high school and I was an empty nester, I was like, well, it's time. It's time to come home.
I feel that. I feel that. And you know what? We're grateful you're home. We're grateful any child removed is able to come home. And I love that you said it's never too late. So from the deepest place in my heart, I want to say thank you. Mm-hmm. What I'm really curious about is Indiana. I'm seeing conservative, and I won't name any religions, but I've got my mind going.
Yeah.
Sustainability. I mean, how does sustainability come into your vision? How did you manifest that when, like, okay, why don't we say this? Where do you purchase your textiles? Where do you purchase your fabric? How do you find your stuff and how do you create it?
Yeah. So I've been a collector for my whole life. So I have large archives of things that are salvaged. And I always, people ask me that question, and I always feel like I don't find the things find me somehow. It just like comes into my pathway, and I see it differently than anyone else. I see a giant box of dirty parachutes and I imagine ball gowns. I see a giant pile of kind of disgusting military gear, and I can only see how beautiful it can be restored. So there's this thing of imagination. There's also
Mm,
a thing of knowing not to be wasteful, to really be thoughtful and mindful about how we create. So a lot of those are just ways I feel that things find me sometimes, and I see them differently than other people that might look at it as waste, right? Things that are discarded, things that are broken. I can only see the possibilities. So it's allowed, I don't know, it's like me to really run free with a creative mind to recreate things. But when we talk about sustainability, which, another question that comes to me a lot is to talk about sustainability from an Indigenous perspective. Well, of course, we've lived that way forever. This is who we
mhm.
are as a
Yeah,
culture and as
yeah.
people. So I think it's important, not just to be mindful about the creation part, but it's mindful again to come back to use that platform, to use that wealth created in businesses that are Native owned, to reinvest in our own people. So for kinship, it's founded by someone, Diné. We definitely support all of the staffing, all the contract work, the photographers, the models, the assistants in the store, the film people that we work with. All of that is done within Native community because we want to make sure all of that's reinvested back in. Um, so that's just a very clear business kind of DNA value for kinship, is that we do want to bring that wealth back to community, and then also to use the time that business affords us. For me personally, I have almost 40 years experience in the fashion industry now, getting up there in age. So it's time for me to really pass that knowledge on. And it's crazy to me how those skill sets of 40 years in the industry have created like really interesting tools. Like, we were doing COVID aid very early on, when things were really bad. And I never would have thought being a fashion designer would have made me in a good position to be of service in community work or mutual aid. But it actually, this idea of just, fundraising, buying things, getting PPE out of Vietnam at a time that the custom borders were all shut down, knowing how to deliver it, knowing how to cut and sew masks, knowing how to get things drop shipped in the middle of Navajo Nation and distributed across 27,000 square miles. Like somehow, some way, that was very similar to fast fashion. So those gifts of all those years where I was away were quite unique in coming home. And I think that's what Creator wanted, was for me to come back with a different toolkit and to really be of service to community with those things I know. And so that's really, with COVID happening shortly after I came back in 2019, it really allowed me to understand how I could be of service to community, just beyond, teaching fashion or, teaching art classes to our kids. There was a much bigger picture that was created just by being here at a specific time. So I was
I
really
see.
grateful for that possibility, because it did help a lot of relatives. And I mean, that was just the best joyful thing for me, was to be able to be of service.
Great.
Mhm.
So when you create your artwork and you get your designs, you see your visions, you dream about it, you're influenced by, and you get really creative in this process, who do you create your audience for? Is there an audience? Is there a specific target group you want to to be able to purchase your goods or market it? Because obviously your work is very unique, and if you're not reproducing it in a factory style, you're not putting out, 100,000 blouses like this with your name brand on it, but one blouse with your name
Right.
brand on it. How does that work?
I don't know. It's kind of that's a good question because I honestly don't think about it much. I just love the creative process and I love sharing that. Obviously doing a lot of the photography myself. I really love showing the beauty of our land and showing the beauty of our people through the creative pathway of photography and presentation. But when I think about fashion, I don't really feel like I want to fit in. It's not something like the fashion industry is something that I feel still has a lot of dismantling to do to get to where it needs to be. So I'd rather just not fit in and be more standing out as someone that doesn't fit in, because by standing out, you're setting a different example of how things could be done. Like, we're a tiny brand, we're a little tiny brand, but we probably give back more than most of the large, giant $1 million corporations, just because we go a different direction with how we do business. We really honor our people. We really honor the reciprocity of the land that we're on and the place that we're at in the world. And so I hope people in fashion take notice of that, because we do need more allyship within fashion for people to do things in a more thoughtful way, in a more mindful way, in a more inclusive way with Native Americans, where we're not so tokenized and there's just one of us dropped into a situation. It needs to be something that is more full circle and inclusive. So, that's the future we're fighting for, is for the future generation of Native creatives, that they not only have a space within fashion, but it is expansive how they're included. It should be something where we're in every company, because we should be, instead of constantly having appropriation or constantly just having that single person dropped in for diversity and inclusivity. So that's the change that I'd like to see in the industry.
So to get a little bit specific, to give me or to give all of us a clear picture, what legacy are you contributing for the roadmap for other Indigenous artists who have been removed from their homelands and want to come back, and for others that are coming from the homelands that don't have the mainstream fashion design worldly skills of traveling to London and New York City and Los Angeles, that are coming out of the woodworks, that have these amazing skills in terms of the manifestation of just insane creations that are theirs and theirs only, in whatever genre or style that they want to make. And maybe there's not even such a thing yet, but it's just, they know how to do it, but they don't have these skills, like how to, that marketing tooling, the advertising, the social media, and the
Right.
niceties, like, okay, this is how you talk to this world. If they don't have that, how can you create that for them?
Through mentorship. I mean, that was a big part of us taking over the lease of this beautiful house we have on Kenyon Road, was to have a space where we all belong. The city does very little to foster Indigenous commerce business. The fact that I'm the only retailer in all of Santa Fe is devastating, but we're there to create change. And so where the city doesn't actually help amplify, elevate, support our young creatives, that's what we want the house to be. A place where we can invite young artists to participate. If they're in that space, I'm constantly just helping in any way I can. I guess it would be called mentorship, but I consider it just being a good relative to seeing and listening how young talent is operating. And if you can be of assistance, if there's anything you can do, you try to help. But we want to give 100% sales back to these artists, because I don't want them to be in the store for more than 6 months. I would rather they have that wealth created in the space, and that they can get a shop down the road, because that's the goal, is that we have a more expansive Native business community in the Southwest hub that is a major tourist destination. So I'm hoping that that continues to grow and expand, and maybe the city will sign on and be partners with us in the future. But we want to see Native business here in the Southwest, in those major tourism hubs, on a permanent basis, in the permanent place, not as temporary permits, not as pop-up shops, not as Indian markets, because those are only 1 week normally, or a weekend out of the year. We belong here. You know, we should be here on a permanent basis. So certainly we are championing for all the young talent that is here to be amplified, to be elevated, to have a space that they feel is their own. And that's what For Kinship House is in Santa Fe. And that to me is like, you know, community service is something where we're giving back, where we're doing what we should do to be good relatives. So yeah, it's really a beautiful, beautiful space.
That makes me think of you know, my partner Elena, and when she meets someone and they're hungry, you just feel it. You just taste that hunger, and it's just like,
Yeah.
wow, here's a resource, here's a contact, here's a name, here's the email. I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to hook you up. I'm referencing you. It's my name. So if you're really hungry, let's do this. That
Exactly.
kind of stuff. That's how Indigenous Ways roll. So that's
That's
amazing.
how
Thank
we
you.
all should roll. That's, you know, it's a thing where,
Yes.
you know, it's going to take a village. It's going to take all of us, you know, holding hands and bringing everybody up with, you know, as we all come up, we bring everyone with us. It's not about the single person or the single organization. It's really that kinship we have as Native people, where we come together and we do this work, and to know that we have the power to do it ourselves. You know, that's where I don't know, I think it was a turning point for me probably during the pandemic, where the government failed us, and then even the tribal government was operating a little bit slow, you know, and it was the matriarchs of our Diné community that really rose up and really got things going to support our communities with aid. And it's that resilience, it's that warrior work that we all have in us. If we do this together, we can do anything. I totally feel like we can do anything. And that's where these kind of discussions are great, where we're all on here together.
That's wonderful. And you know, that reminds me of a dialogue that's been going on in Indian country about the utilizing the jumping off point of trauma and institutional violence and domestic violence and learned social constructs from the patriarchy and how it's impacted our communities and our minds, and how a lot of amazing artists and writers and musicians write about that, sing about that, paint about it, design it, make that ceramics pot, make that coffee cup that says something, even though it's not said, but it's just felt, non-representational, abstract. All that stuff is really, really fascinating. So in terms of your art and your jumping off point, how have you coped with the challenges being removed and returning to your land? And when I ask that question, I don't just mean the sad part, but what about the beautiful part? Can you tell us, kind of give us a picture of what that feels like and how that has informed your work, or
Yeah,
has it?
yeah, I hear that. I mean, I have to say, like, you know, the thing you fight constantly when you're the one coming back, it's definitely imposter syndrome, because
Hmm.
you've never felt like you belong anywhere. So you're really, it's very, you have to really gather some tools to keep going, because it
Yeah.
does get a little bit scary sometimes. But like when I think about the joyful things, I was on a call this morning with Native Women Led, and we were talking about, you know, those first memories when I came back to the reservation. And I remember I was out at Tahali Community School. I went out for a track and field event, and it was like culture shock for me in a opposite way, right? Because I had never, as a Native person, gone to an event where all the kids were Diné, all the teachers were Diné. Everybody at the event was, all the parents. And I'm sitting there just realizing this is what my life could have been, where I look everywhere and I'm surrounded by relatives. And it was one of those moments that really, it was like impactful for me because I never even knew this was possible. And it just felt like, for sure, this is the place, this is my home. And that's where, you know, I put the roots down. That's where the seed was planted for the skate park, was because that's really where the possibilities opened up for me to know the joy of being Diné, to know that I was home. Yeah. So
Thank you for that. How did the skate park come into a vision? I mean, was that from you, or was that an idea from somebody, or how did that happen?
yeah, we've been I've been out with I've been out teaching art classes for a couple years in that community, just, you know, coming up with fun ideas for the kids.
Mhm.
And, you know, the one thing is, you know, when it comes to the summer, there's nothing for them to do when they're not in school.
Oh,
And when
tell
kids
me
are
about it.
busy, they get into trouble, you know, and that's just how things go in remote areas. So we were thinking of ways we could have some type of outdoor recreation that was there 24/7. And my background, like I said, was in active sportswear. So it was kind of a very easy idea for me to think how to get sponsorship and how that could look. Obviously, I've never built anything like that in my life. So when it came down to the concrete and the rebar and the lumber, I had to learn a lot very quickly. But we had great alignments that just happened. It was kind of magical, really. I think our ancestors just really wanted this pathway to be easy and for things to happen. So we did a crowdfund to raise the money. Tony Hawk was so kind to promote it. That really validated the project. The community gave me the land lease within, I think after the first meeting, we got the land lease within a month, which is unheard of. So we had full support of the Two Gray Hills Toadlina community to do this build. And yeah, it was really pretty magical after that, with so many great allies and partners and brands signing on to support this build. And the kids all being involved, because, you know, nothing really happens unless you really have the kids, the parents of the kids, everybody behind this, because they had to be part of the crowdfund. They were actively part of helping us raise the funding. So it was such a beautiful community experience. And, you know, it's just amazing that these things are, I wouldn't say it's impossible to do a second one, because that one was pretty easy. I feel
Mhm.
that the kids in these remote areas are the kids that need the spaces the most, because there's really nothing, once you get an hour out, there's just so little for them to do. So I feel remote areas need to have, every 50 miles need to have a skate park.
Even a
So
decent basketball court with an actual, you know, a
yeah,
nice foundation, and not just
yeah.
rubbly berms in the sand and, you know, a little, you know, because that's how I started playing basketball on the reservation, and I love basketball. I would have loved to have a skateboard park as well.
Mhm.
So thank you for that. Because of your experience that many others have experienced, especially during the Indian Removal Act time,
Yeah.
um, being an Indian, you are native. It's in your DNA. It's you've got the ancestral, all of that, and your experience that many people experience besides you, and you've made a platform for yourself, your brand, your creations. You've gone out, you've learned, you've done the hard work.
Mhm.
The question is, how does that experience enrich your work? Does it make you more determined? I mean, just being out there, you know, and coming back, and how does that whole, how does all of that just, I mean, I know there's probably all kinds of unknowns in terms of emotions and fears, and how does all that inform your
Well,
work?
I mean,
Or
obviously,
does it?
I feel that being out on the land, being home, I feel like it's awakened a lot of ancestral memory for me. Also, I'm able to receive messages or intentions of things that are needed to be done, which I never experienced before I came home. So I think that's just part of, you know, kind of a lost memory for me that's coming back slowly now that I'm back here in New Mexico. So I don't even know if these are my ideas or whether these are seeds that are just being planted from ancestors that it's
Mhm.
up to me to manifest them. But
Right.
it's certainly something that I'm very clear on what needs to get done. And it's to see the smiles and the happiness on these kids, to know that they are going to be physically active probably every day, that I've probably helped out with some issues that might come up for them in their lives. They'll have a place to go where they can work that out. You know, this concrete structure will be there for at least 20 years. So
Mhm.
so many kids will be impacted by it, and so many families can come together. I mean, that was the beautiful thing last time I went there. It's like, it's not just the kids, it's the elders, it's the parents, it's the younger kids. They're all there as a family together, and that's what we wanted, was just a gathering space, you know, a
Bring
gathering
the money
space.
sandwiches.
Exactly.
There
So
you go.
we need more of this. We need Navajo Nation president to support it, but we're really grateful that Dr. Boo Nygren showed up last Monday. So he's also an avid skateboarder. So I feel that you'll just see more support of the art of skateboarding, and the transformation that these kids can have through having a sport they have access to every day. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what happens. We're going to be in the Olympics. Just give us some time.
Yes. 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 Absolutely.
Why
And
not? We're
Elena,
limitless.
if there's any way you can pull up the website and go to, there's a link right there with the Navajo president. It's a short video. If you can put that up, Elena, while I ask my last question or two. It's really beautiful. I saw that clip and I was very home. And there's nice different visions of that piece of photography. And I actually saw it come through on my wall on my Facebook page and Instagram. And I
Oh,
shared it, of course. And
thank
then I
you.
looked at it closely and then I saw this one person over here, kind of dark skin with glasses. I go, is that Amy? Oh my God. Oh, that's Amy in there. He's
Yeah.
smiling next to the president. I was like,
Auntie
right
was so
on.
tired that day. Oh my gosh, I was exhausted, but it was a great day for the kids, and we had so many amazing young ones helping. Like, there's a whole team of Diné skaters that support these kids with
How do
mentorship
you find this real
programs.
quick for Elena? Can you tell her where to get it on the website?
What's she trying to get to
The
oh,
picture of you with on the grand opening with the president.
Oh,
It's on there.
I think it's on the Activate section of our website. It's Diné Skate Garden Project, but for anybody that's on, we'll be posting some more video tomorrow on Instagram. So if you want to just bounce onto our Instagram tomorrow, we're going to talk a lot about Boo Nygren, about just the Diné community behind this project, because For Kinship was the organizer. I was the one kind of running around doing fundraising and sponsorships and all that. But over 2,000 people gave funding. We had sponsorships from some of the biggest brands in the world, but it all came down to the community. It's like
That's right.
moms, it's the kids, it's the teachers, it's the skate mentors who are all Diné. It's the chapter president, the chapter vice president, the bus drivers that bring the kids down there. It's like
Yeah,
these are the people that are the heart of the project. And again, the news channels normally just pick up on the celebrities that visit, but everyone should know that the heart and soul of that project is with the Diné people. It's,
that's right on.
for us, by us, with us. It comes from us. So it's just a great way to give back.
I think so, for sure, definitely. And the last question, because I'm sure there's a bunch of other people that want to ask you a question. We have some IA students as well. What does gathering mean to you?
What does gathering mean to me?
Yeah,
Give me some more context on that, because
that's just it. One question, one
oh,
line.
good
What does
question.
gathering mean to you?
I never use that word. Gosh, that's a hard question, Tash. I mean, gathering to me is really, when I hear that word, I would think of mutual aid work, coming together as people,
Okay.
relatives helping relatives, which is what I've learned since I've come home. But I don't use that word much. So
Hmm.
you kind of threw me for a loop with it.
Yeah, That's our theme for this year, is gathering. And I asked every presenter that at the very end, that one line was gathering to me. And I was thinking, what's gathering to me? And I'm thinking about harvest. I'm thinking about fall, getting Indigenous people getting ready for the winter, and gathering all the plants and drying them and getting the pork and beef and jerking it and adding stuff to make it last. And that's what gathering means to me, but gathering, it means something very different for everybody. So I just love throwing that question out. And thank you so much, Amy, for allowing this interview to be a part of Indigenous Ways' archives, which is going to be put into our archives. And I'm going to pass it on to our beautiful executive director, Miss Elena Higgins.
Thanks so much for that, Tash. And Amy, thank you so much for blessing us in the Wisdom Circle, but also for your extraordinary walk that have been following. You know, we were very blessed to meet Amy in 2019, and that was at our then board president's place with Buffy St. Marie with a fundraiser that we were doing. And we had an opportunity that evening to get donors or whatever. And what was important for us with what we were doing was looking at murdered and missing Indigenous women. And so we gathered all the Native American organizations on the front line of access and resources, helping, assisting families, domestic violence, murdered and missing, trafficking, and so forth, and met you there. And since then have been following you. So I say here, thank you, thank you, thank you. Watching you, also going back to Chinle and assisting all the Native women there, giving them resources, watching how the skate park has unfolded. You know, one of the things that what you said, which is something that I say, which is everything and anything is possible. So you and I are very similar. I'm a product of foster care. So for me, I have three very rich cultures: my Maori side, my Samoan side, and also my Pākehā, my white side, my foster family, who are white. And with that, I'm able to navigate in these three worlds. And so I really see you. So one day we'll have a cup of tea and have a chat about it. But thank you so much, Amy. When I finish, we're going to invite everyone in, as Tash was saying. But this is the little commercial break. So if you have any thoughts, or if you're in social media, start thinking about questions, or just connecting with Amy. Here she is. But in our next month, so we beam out every third Wednesday of the month. And so next month we have the beautiful Brenda Artanacio, who aka G Precious. She'll be blessing us here May 17th, same time, same channel. She's award-winning hip-hop artist from Awinge Pueblo here in northern New Mexico, or north from Santa Fe. So we'll look forward to her. If you really enjoyed Amy Denet Deal's presentation, that'll be available in the next few days through our archives. She is one of over 200 presenters in our video library. We started this April the 1st, 2020, as we usually produce festivals and events with communities. And when COVID hit, it was like, oh, what are we going to do? And so we've had ASL access from the 1st of April 2020 onwards. So all of our events that we do have ASL interpreters, making access available for all. It is also free. So you can see that at our library. If you go to IndigenousWays.org, there you can also sign up to our newsletters. We'd love to see more of you. Down below me is all our social networks. So if you're beaming in or watching this on any of the social networks, please like, subscribe to us. we'd like to see more of you. All of this series has been possible thanks to the National Endowment of the Arts, the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture Department, the Santa Fe Community Foundation and Vision Fund, and the New Mexico Arts. Also want to thank our board members. We've got Carita, Kitty, Michelle, who are here that we're honored to have, as well as all of our individual people that have invested in us over this time. Thank you. And we're really excited. Last year we decided from this whole pandemic thing, how can we bring our beloved community out? And so what we did last year was we had 5 pop-up festivals celebrating Indigenous. So our series starts this year, May the 5th, which coincides with Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women. So if you are able to attend in person, wear red. This is also going to be online, so you can go to our website, IndigenousWays.org, and we're going to encourage you to wear red, and it's a celebration, as Amy was talking about, that we're still here, that we are still here. And there have been a lot of our sisters throughout time, through all sorts of things that aren't. And so there's such a big spotlight on it. So this is happening. We've got wonderful, wonderful festivities that will be happening on that day, 5 to 6, 5 to 9. So look forward to seeing you in person or there. And then if you're able to donate, you can go to our website, IndigenousWays.org. We've got PayPal, there's Venmo, or if you're a little bit like me, not into the electronics, you can go to the snail mail PO Box 4073, Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so in saying that, was what a wonderful mouthful that all was. We're just going to encourage everyone now to turn on your videos if you want to. That's this time to come in and say good day to Amy. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to be able to do that as well. But it's really wonderful seeing everyone. Well, there.
All right, everyone, just for your knowledge, Arletta is a deaf elder from the Navajo Nation who taught me sign language when I was 11 years old. I have a career today because of this woman, so we're very honored. We have this show, Access for our native deaf and hard of hearing, largely due to Arletta's influence in my very, very young life. So hi, Arletta, we love you. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, it's great to see you, Pauline. Welcome home. It's great to see you, Diana, everyone else. Hey, Cookie, great to see you too. Tosh.
Yes, let's go to Pauline. Pauline, we'd love to hear from you. What's up?
Hi, greetings. Beautiful, really wonderful. Happy to be part of this wisdom circle and learning a lot and just being in community. And it's nice to be back. I look forward to catching up with you too.
Welcome home, Pauline. I want to give Pauline a shout out. She's been traveling all over the show. She was quite instrumental for a lot of our funding that we received through the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture Department. So thank you for your support there. Diana, it's so great to see you. Do you want to check in? It's been such a long time, you amazing artist, you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed listening to her, Amy. It's really nice to be back and listening to the community again.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you, Diana. Diana is also an amazing painter, everyone. Thank you for being with us, Diana. Miranda Mullet, how's it going? Good to see you.
Hi, it's nice to meet everyone in this community. Amy invited me over, and I'm a big supporter of all of her work and her efforts to our community, so I wanted to be here.
Beautiful. Thank
One
you
of
for
our
being here.
amazing Diné entrepreneurs that just launched her own brand, Miranda.
Contact us, Miranda. We'll support you in any way we can. We got platforms.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That's so sweet of you. I will do that.
Okay. Talk to Elena. She's executive director, or me. That's fine. Oh,
Sounds-
Nicole Oxendine, our board members here. Woohoo! All the way from Maryland. Hey, Nicole, say some words, sister. We miss you. We love you.
Okay, I just want to give a couple of shout outs. This is from our social media. So a big shout out to Joni Arana, who's beaming in from Aussie, or Australia translation. We've also got Deborah Roger. Actually, we need to hook you guys up, Amy. She does broadcasting moccasin tracks. She
Oh, wow.
says, great question, Tash. Enjoying listening to this conversation. Thanks. It's a treat to tune in to Indigenous Ways. Thank you, Amy, Denet Deal. Love hearing all about your work and art and community. Thank you. We've
Oh,
also got G Precious, Brenda Atencio. She's going to be on next month. She's going basketball golf was the square crate. And then Michelle Ormond, who couldn't get into the Zoom, but she went in on social media. She says, thank you for sharing your story, Amy. I love your resilience and love your survival through your childhood. Thanks for that, Tash.
okay. Dr. Amber Elizabeth, how's it going? Thank you for being with us.
It's going well. I'm here. I'm a Santa Fe. Well, I'm on the unceded territory of the Tewa. I've been to your store several times, Amy.
Oh,
Not for a while because I had surgery and I'm currently immobile, but I'll be back up there.
oh,
But
wonderful.
I love what you're doing here, and I want to connect about the things you're doing elsewhere. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for visiting. We've had such wonderful support from our local community here in Santa Fe.
good.
We're just really excited for what's going to come to the future.
I love the idea of Canyon Road being completely indigenous.
Oh, can you imagine?
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Got a dream. A girl's got a dream. It just takes
Yeah,
$5,000 grants to all of our young ones to get
Yep,
behind them
yep.
so they can get their foot in the door. And
yep.
you know, that money just needs to happen. So everybody's
Yep.
got to come together and ask the mayor really nice. And I'm sure we can make that a reality.
Beautiful. Love it. All right. Our board president's here tonight. Michelle, would you like to say something?
Sure. Well, hello, Amy, and thank you so much for your story. What a pleasure to hear all the work that you're doing in Native art and design, and your passion for tapestry, and it just really, I can almost see you working the way you were talking about it. You know, you were just that descriptive in your presentation, which was lovely. And I'd like to ask, you mentioned about, your childhood and, being adopted by non-Native parents. And so I was just wondering if you have, I mean, as a child that was adopted by non-Native parents, and how that's affected your walk. Have you been following the case now that's in the courts with the Supreme Court, the Holland versus Brackeen case?
Of course I have. Yes. I mean, it's just anything we can do to support the people fighting for that. You know, it's hard to watch because it brings up a lot for me. But also, you know, what does that mean? What does that displacement do to our kids? And if I look at my life, it was just something I would never wish on another child. It's a long time, a feeling of displacement, the imposter syndrome that goes along that, which I think many of us can relate to if you do come from mixed race, of not quite fitting in any place. For me, that was really a lifelong struggle with alcoholism. So I've only been sober for the last 8 months and having some clarity on exactly what I'm dealing with, because that was my way of not dealing with all this childhood issue, was through numbing myself. So, you know, I certainly feel that for my brand, for my community, we definitely want to start more support groups, because I know there are a lot of other relatives like me out there. A lot of them have reached out to me on Instagram, which has been a great tool for people that want to just know, like, how did you do this? Because there is no guidebook. There is not much to go with on how do you come home, you know, and sometimes you take those first steps and it's pretty scary. You might get some lateral aggression. You might get people that don't accept you. And it's just a hard thing to kind of figure out by yourself. So I think it's important that we can use the platform to be a landing pad to invite relatives back in and to host them and make them feel comfortable as they take those baby steps. Because like, if you look at my life, I'm 59 this year, but I've only come back as a almost 4-year-old. That's how old I am in knowing, in being, and I stumble all the time. I make mistakes. And it's hard for a lot of our community to accept me, because here I am in this older body, you know, looking quite adult and an elder because of the gray hair. But some of my ways, it's like a baby stumbling around trying to figure out. So I need help from all my aunties and uncles, you know. So it is a very unique experience that I know that I could probably do a lot to help the next wave, you know, make that transition as well, because it is so beautiful to come back. It is so much amazing experience and knowledge and joy, you know, that I never had in my life, just knowing that this is where I belong. And I never would have found that if I hadn't taken those steps, but those steps were hard. So how can we make that easier for others?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. And thank
Amazing.
you for your walk. And you know what? We welcome you back. We welcome you back with open arms, and so glad that you're bringing back and you're able to bring everything that you've learned in your life walk into what's going to help strengthen the resilience of the Navajo Nation and the Diné people, because we have a lot of resources, and how you're using, like, you know, things that people would consider trash and turning it into something beautiful, fashion. And you know, it's like Native Americans, I've noticed that, like, a lot of us can be rat packers. You know, we keep things, you know, because we know that somewhere down the line there's going to be a use for it, and we don't want to waste anything. And I see that in you, like, you just have that thriftiness of not, you know, waste not, want not, and just kind of like you're gonna make something beautiful out of something that has been used. And I really love that concept. I really love that concept of recycling, reusing, and really appreciate you so much. Thanks.
Oh,
Yeah, miss. All right, let's go to Judy Shapiro, another board member on board tonight. Hey, Judy, what's up?
Hey, I just wanted to wave from your back room. It is good to hear this. I mean, coming home is such an important thing, and it's an important thing that all of us do at various times in our life.
Mhm.
And reclaiming who we are, which changes all the time. And what I'm particularly appreciating is your outreach to others to help them reach that same kind of goal.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think the other thing that probably comes with the coming home is trying to figure out how to dismantle all those years of being taught in a much different way about our culture, about our ways, you know, just from the non-native perspective. So, you know, that's another area that I think is presenting challenges. And, you know, there's not much guidebooks, like I said, or places that talk about that. So hopefully we can do some important work there as well, because it does need to break down how you were brought up. In order to accept this new way, you have to constantly use tools to catch yourself. So.
Awesome. All right, we got a couple of minutes left. I'd like to see if Nicole, did you want to say anything? We can't hear you. We're muted.
Sorry, sure.
Okay.
Hey. I'm just really loving this idea of indigeneity. Hi, Amy, by the way, sorry, I was muted.
Hi there.
Yeah. Indigeneity as a verb and the action. I'd love to hear you speak more on that. And as a mother of young women who are very dedicated to staying connected to our people. I'm a member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, and my daughters will not likely choose to live at home in North Carolina in their lifetimes, but we stay very connected to going home and being a part of rituals and community there. And then we've in the urban Indian space. So this idea about how we live through our actions and connections and the anyway, I'd just love to hear more about that from your perspective, but the verbiness of it was interesting to me.
So is that can you just repeat like the question? I'm sorry.
The question is, what more could you speak to about the verb of or the action of indigeneity as a verb? I think that was part of what I heard.
Oh, okay. That's really clear. So when I first came home, you know, I feel like to step into those shoes, it came with responsibility. I couldn't just come home and just suddenly enter this new chapter. It came with the responsibility of learning how I can be part of the community, how I can be part of creating positivity, you know? So when I came home, there's a lot of things, there's so many things once you open one door, right? You open one door to help out one group and it opens another door and there's another need and then there's another need and another need and you get like a little overwhelmed on all the things that need attention. And so I feel that it's just like moving and flowing through that process as almost a meditation and to try to find time in every single day. Because that's, if you look at like what we all do as community, it all requires our time. Our time is the most valuable thing all of us have. We're all on this call for an hour, right? Hopefully we've all learned something, but it's how we spend that time to give back, whether it's the 5 minutes, the 10 minutes, the 1 hour, spend the whole day, that's going to create and impact the change that needs to happen. Because we can't leave it up and think someone else is going to do it. We all have to be active parts of that solution. So when I think of my indigeneity in terms of a verb, in terms of actually putting those words into action, it's simply the management of my time to make sure that every single day I find space, which is really hard sometimes because we're all very busy living our lives. But you have to find that way to include a daily meditation that really celebrates our people. And it can be small things. It can be helping an elder, you know, get groceries delivered. It could be amplifying our relatives that are hosting this to make sure that their work is being heard. But like every single person that's on this call can spend 5 minutes when we all hit the going away button and think of something we can all do that's going to impact someone. And that's what I hope that we're showing with our brand, is that it can be done. It can be done through many ways that we all come together and do this work. So,
thank you so much. That's all the time we have. That was an excellent question, Nicole. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amy, welcome home. If there's anything we can do for you, we've got a nonprofit. We're based here in Santa Fe, right along with you. Let's work together and let's see how we can collaborate in the future.
absolutely.
Take care, everybody. Thank you, ASL interpreters. Good to see you, Arletta. I miss you. I love you. I'll see you soon. And everybody, much love. Take care, everybody.
On that note, let's all give it up for Amy Denet Deal. Woo-hoo-hoo! What a powerhouse. And Tash, don't forget, we'll be seeing you next month with Brenda Artenasio, as well as on May the 5th,
Atencio, love. It's
Indigenous Ways
Atencio.
Festival. Let's give it up for our interpreters. We have the beautiful Mariah and also Crescentiano making access available for all. This would not be possible without any of you, so thank you. And on that note, one more big shout out for the one and only amazing Amy Denet Deal. You!
Thank you, everyone.
Touch the earth.